coordinator, trying to get a screening of 7 a.m. Jason Black's break. Good evening, guys. Welcome to another edition of Gavin Richard Presents on this daylight savings time. Wherever you are, hope you are blessed and doing safe. We're about to get started. We're going to be talking about mysterious deaths of certain celebrities, featuring Garland Brown and Albert Lennier Jr. Of course, you guys know Albert from my podcast, my live stream we did about a week ago, where we went and discussed the death of Sam Cooke. He will be talking about Bobby Fuller Jr. And we will also be talking about the death of a screenwriter that he mentioned. He's going to be coming on in the next hour or so, where we'll be talking about the death of a screenwriter. He mentioned mysterious death. His name is, I have it right here, Rey Rivera. Not familiar with him, but as of right now, and I'm going to put this, start my camera so you guys can see me. Oh, there we go. We're going to be talking about, of course, the purple one. Now, Garland, this is his third time that he's going to be coming on to the channel, and he's here, so he'll be with us for the next 56 minutes talking about the mysterious death of Prince. Now, let me bring Garland in because he's actually here. What's up, Garland?
What's going on, G-Boo?
All right, what's going on, man? Good to have you come on. We got a few people in the chat. Welcome, everybody. Shout out to our sister. Let's see. Shout out to Madam Magma. She's here waiting on the intellectual conversation from East Oakland, California, the Bayside area. All right. So thank you, sister, for tuning in with a few other people on Facebook that are watching. I'm sure. I know right now some of my viewers are probably tuning in. I didn't know this, but Nicole has a live stream going on. But we're going to go ahead and talk about this right here. Steve Mack is in the building. What's up, Steve? Yeah. So essentially, let me talk to everyone why I wanted to talk about this as a follow-up. I just happened to be sitting at home yesterday on a computer working while my parents had uh, the uh, I think it's called What Really Happened. It's on Headline News, and that is the sister channel to CNN, if I'm not mistaken. And what they do is they do these documentaries, these celebrity autopsies and so forth of certain of different celebrities each week. And Hill Harper is the one who hosts this. I think that's the name of the show. What Really Happened. And Hill Harper, they've done Michael Jackson, they have done uh, I think they've done John Belushi, Marvin Gaye, although we know what happened with him, and a few other celebrities. They've done various ones, and of course, yesterday, I take it was a replay because it's been about 5 years almost since Prince has died. April 21st will mark the fifth anniversary of his passing. So that's why, hence, you see, I'll just show everybody. You see me wearing a shirt that is all of our deceased celebrities in our community, including Michael Jackson. You have Natalie Cole, Whitney Houston, uh, Lisa Left Eye Lopez. I should know who this is, but I'm sorry, it slips my mind. But of course, you got Sheila E. You got Maurice White. Michael is here. Luther. I think Barry White and Heavy D. But Prince is the one that stood out. I got this one actually during Essence Fest. You out in public right now?
I am actually in the ballroom of the Fairfield in Columbia, Tennessee, which is about 35 miles south of Nashville. And they were gracious enough to let me stop in. I was on my way home, and the traffic, there was an accident, so I'm stuck here until they get that cleared up. So I just told them I might as well stay here to do the live stream with you. So I have my mask on, which is the tape deck that I had back in the 80s, which is, I got a mask made of it. I don't know if you can see it, but that's all of the Prince albums from the 1980s. That's
yeah.
right there. But yeah, I'm out in public. But this is a home base for me. Everybody here knows me pretty well, so I'm
Hmm.
comfortable about discussing some of this information here
You said you're
with you.
not comfortable, or you are comfortable.
I am comfortable here.
Okay. Oh,
Um,
yeah,
yeah, I'm here. It's
yeah.
home
It's in
base.
public. Yeah, and it's in a home base. Yeah. Okay. Well, let us get into it. I could have saved this one for the anniversary, but we're gonna have Albert Lanier come on in the next hour. Al came on last week where we talked about the death of Sam Cooke and
Mm,
the mysterious death of Sam and how he died, which is
mm,
questionable. And we're going to have Bobby Fuller. He's going to talk about the death of Bobby Fuller. Fuller was a songwriter who wrote the song. Well, he didn't write, but he sang the song "I Fought the Law," and
yeah.
the law won. He died a mysterious death
Hmm.
as well. So we're going to talk about that. So let's get into talking about Prince. Of course, Prince, arguably, we've already discussed this, one of the greatest musicians of all time, one of the greatest artists of all time, and probably, arguably, he would be in my top five of best songwriters ever.
Mm,
He could write a song like that. Very simple. Playing the instruments on all of his albums, producing his own albums at the age of 20, 19 years old when he signed with Warner Brothers. Uh, you know, Writing for other artists too. He was a songwriter for. He even wrote some Morris Day's songs like "Cool," uh, "Ice Cream Castle." "Jungle Love," although they co-wrote a few of those singles like "Jungle Love" and "The Bird" together. "Love Bazaar" for Sheila E. Um, Erotic City, which was very controversial when it came out. There's
mm,
countless stuff he did. Maniac Mondays, I Feel for You. And of course, I think it was even convenient that we talk about Prince too, because Coming to America came out and they had one of his songs that was using in the dance sequence where Tiana Taylor came out to seduce and the Prince. So uh, yeah. So I wanted to talk about that, and it was interesting because we know back in the day, Prince was very careful with releasing his music and who could perform it, who had the licensing to it, or he was protective of it. And supposedly, in something Hill Harper had said that Prince told him that in his vault, which is what they really want, the music that's in there. There's jazz, there's
mhm.
R&B, there's rock. There's a whole bunch of things. I've heard the music is actually long enough. The music in the library is so big that it could last for over 100 years, even after he's gone. So, with that being said, this is a continuation on his death. Uh, Garland, what do you think of that as far as his music rights and so forth, and how we're seeing most of it in commercials and TV now and movies like we've never seen before?
Let me give a little rundown of what has transpired since Prince has passed, as far as his recordings. Prince passed away without a will, and as a result of him passing away without this will, were no instruction on to how to proceed, and the family has been engaged in trying. The family is going to get a portion of his estate,
Mhm.
and but the musical legacy of Prince was fought over and eventually was sold to Sony Records. And this year marks the first year that Sony has gotten the rights to the Prince uh, vault. Well, let me clarify.
Into
There
his
are
catalog, his library. Are you
they
talking about
have
the actual vault?
access. They have access in publishing and recording, printing rights to everything to 1995. From 95 until 2016, they have the rights to it. Then they have now, because of this 2021 set up, the arrangement that they had with Warner Brothers, they now have access to everything from For You, which was the first album that Prince released in 1978, to 1994's Come album. But they do not have access to the soundtracks. So Prince has five soundtracks that they don't have access to. So last year, Prince, back in September, the legendary Sign of the Times Super Deluxe Edition was released, in which it's about 7 hours worth of music that was released on that massive box set, which kept me. I'm still listening to it. Yeah, it's in constant rotation on my phone, and when I get in the car, that's what I'm listening to. But what you mentioned something that's very important here, and that is the vault, and the fact that the vault that Prince had thousands of recordings that have not been released.
Right.
And that is what I believe. I get confused at who has actual access to that. And I believe Warner Brothers has access to that vault. So when you consider the fact that a man who supposedly would release an album and probably sell maybe 300,000 or 400,000 copies of that album independently, all of a sudden dies, and he releases a super deluxe edition is released that probably sold 600,000 copies. They were selling that Joker for about $300, and I think they sold maybe 200,000 or 300,000 of them. So, matter of fact, when it went on sale for pre-order, they sold so many copies of that Super Deluxe at the CD version was $179. The vinyl version was like $275, and it sold out, in which people had to have 2 or 3 printings of this. So it sold massively worldwide. So they made a chunk of money off of this man.
Yeah.
And he is dead. Okay. So it begs to mind who is profiting. The family is not getting the money. The family is going to get his asset money. But recordings and things of that nature, that's not going to the family at all. That's going to go to what is called the quote unquote Prince estate. So the Prince estate
and the estate basically, for legal mean an individual. The estate is essentially when a person passes away, and they open up a succession. They say the estate of Prince Rogers Nelson or the estate of Michael Jackson. So whatever, if that person has a will, then the estate would be the people that are included in that will, depending on what the assets that are bequeathed to them. Now, if you die without a will and you have children, then it's usually I'm going on in Louisiana law, but I think it's universal where everything goes to the children. If you die with a spouse, if you don't have any children, then it goes to the next line. And this is, of course, in intestate successions. Then it goes to the parents and the siblings. And if they have no parents or siblings, this is their separate property. It goes to the wife and so forth. And if no married, no wife, then the ascendants, collateral status, something like that. And then if they can't find any, it goes to the state. So essentially, yeah, what you is a lot of money that's here. And we know Prince did have a child, but the child didn't survive infancy, sadly. And he was divorced twice, twice divorced. So his second wife didn't get anything, and neither did Mate, his first wife. So so the assets you were talking about, how the family is not getting the publishing. They have the assets, but they're getting the publishing. The publishing is going to the estate of Prince. Who is the estate of Prince Rogers Nelson?
Comerica which is some type of banking conglomerate. Uh,
Healthcare bank. Yeah.
it's real complicated. The family does not have any access to his recording. It
Hmm.
goes to a group called Comerica, and that is it's real interesting when you start linking that back to some certain peoples. Let me get into what happened to Prince, okay, and then I'll kind of backtrack on what we're talking about here. Uh, in 2014, Prince appeared at the Grammy Awards. I believe the Grammys is tonight, which makes
It
this
is.
very interesting.
It is. Which I probably will not be watching because the Grammys suck.
Yeah, they've sucked for years, but Prince was
They're
on
too political too. I
exactly
that's another thing. I think I saw that the weekend said he's boycotting the Grammys.
right,
Beyonce was said to perform, or they asked her to perform, and she declined. A lot of people are just not interested in award shows these days.
exactly, and Prince appeared at the Grammys, and Prince to me did not look right at all. 2014, and I was like, he's sick. There's something wrong with his appearance. He was very thin. Prince has always been tiny, but he was very thin. And I know that in the Prince community, there's a website called Prince.org, and the Prince.org is a hodgepodge of information. But for the most part, you have to discern what you see on the internet. And I think any wise person should take that advice. Anything that you see on the internet, you shouldn't believe it at all. But Prince, there was some information that did appear on that website that said that Prince had a hip condition. This hip condition had degenerated to the point where he was going to have a hip replacement surgery, and that right now he was getting by with painkillers only. Now, that has never been substantiated by any source. Okay, that has just been what was on Prince.org. The individual who posted that information, however, was in the business, and this person in the I've been on Prince.org ever since 1997. So the information that he usually gave was probably some of the best information that you could come up with. He's not been a person to put on anything that was very
Who's this?
spectacular.
I got kicked out. Who are we talking about?
It's an individual on Prince.org, okay, which is a website for Prince fans, and he's been pretty accurate with his information.
Uh,
Um,
You can't
so
name the individual. He won't give his name.
I won't give his name here.
I see.
I will not give his name, but if he I don't know the individual. It's only by his handle. And I go by a handle on Prince.org. It's not with your name like on Facebook. Okay.
So it's an avatar username. All right.
Right. Username. So this guy, with the information he gave, I put it in file 13. It created a firestorm back on the message board at that time. And I'm old. You guys are young bucks. I'm old. So I'm used to the message board world. You guys are more live streaming, Facebook and texting, TikTok. I'm not on it level. Like I said, I've been on Prince.org ever since 1997. So that's been a long time. But anyway, the information that was released, I put it in the back of my mind because this was back in 2006, 2000. It was around the time musicology 3121, and Prince was in Las Vegas and in LA, and he was doing these things. And I'm looking for signs to see whether or not his hip was really bad or not. And I never could see it. He was still performing at a very high level at that time. You were in New Orleans, and I don't know if you went, but you probably remember when he came to New Orleans in 2004 for the musicology at the Essence Festival. And my
I remember
sister was
that, but
there.
I wasn't there. I didn't get to see that. I saw he performed at the Essence Fest. I saw him in 2014
Okay,
uh, when he performed at the Essence Fest. That one I saw, and uh,
okay,
he didn't look like he was sick at that point.
right. I mean, he shook whatever it was. He shook it off, and I mean, he was still jamming. He was still at level. So I'm looking at this, and I'm like, okay, he's gotten older, and maybe he's aging. Okay, that's just what I thought. Um, but fast forward to the last couple of months of 2015, 2016. Most of what was told to me in private, some of this information has been told publicly now. He visited Apollonia from the Purple Rain movie, and he visited her, and she said it was like out of the blue. She said they had just a wonderful day together. I mean, if you're a Prince fan, it brings tears to your eyes if you hear what type of day they had. And he made a song on an album that came out in 2014. It was called This Could Be Us, and it was a picture of them on the motorcycle from the Purple Rain movie that he made. And she said that she got a kick out of that because he never approached her in that manner, regardless of what people think about both of them in the movie. They never did have a real relationship with each other. But she talked about that. Several people started saying that Prince started showing up. Um, Also around the same time period, Prince's, what we now have discovered and heard, the love of his life was Vanity. She was dying. She was dying of a kidney issue or a liver issue. And from my understanding, Prince was paying her medical bills. And she never, I don't know if she ever knew it, but he paid her medical bills off. He made sure that she was taken care of while she was in the hospital. But
What
Prince,
an
go ahead.
important thing to note too is that she also died that same, I think, within 60 days from when he passed
Yes,
away.
yes.
So she had kidney problems. I know it was from
Hmm.
drug abuse that she struggled with. She quit the business in the
Hmm.
mid '90s
Hmm.
because I remember when she was actually pursuing an acting career. This was
Hmm.
after she left Vanity Six, and she had, obviously the Last Dragon. She
Right.
did. She did. What's a couple of movies? She did some Action
Action
Jackson,
Jackson. Yeah.
Tales from the Crypt. Yeah,
Right.
she was in a TV show with that. Yeah, so she retired from. Yeah, so she left the business, became a born again Christian, and
Hmm.
her career took off. Well, not took off, but she started doing that. But yeah, but she was battling some health issues. So I remember when she passed away. I think he was doing his one mic tour with Mike and the
Yeah, it
Piano
was called
tour.
Piano on the Microphone. The Piano Microphone tour. He only did
Yeah, and
maybe
actually,
5 shows that the whole thing. That was very weird. And when you talk about people, the people who were close to him, they kind of like were like, okay, because he always toured with the band. He never did come across and say, "Hey, I didn't want to tour without y'all." And matter of fact, the things that were happening in his life at that time period makes a lot of people think that he committed suicide. That he didn't commit suicide. It just didn't happen like that. But it was a lot of farewell type of things going on during that time period. Um, when Vanity died, Prince, around that time period, he was, I believe, he did a show in California, close to where she was, and a lot of people say he was very upset around that time period. But the closer that we start getting to April 21st, 2016, you start seeing some things develop here. And he did a concert in Atlanta. I believe it was on the 14th of April.
Yeah.
And at that concert, the people who were there said that the show, that piano and the microphone show was electric. I mean, and the end of it, when he did Purple Rain at the end of it, it had people crying. And this is him and the microphone, just him and the piano and the microphone. And he left that show that night, and on the airplane flying back to Minneapolis, at some point in time on this airplane trip, where actually it was close to a place called Moline, Illinois. I have no idea, and I have not been into the North Midwest at all. I have no idea where this is, but it's maybe an hour and a half flight time away from Minneapolis. The plane goes down, and the message is that we have a person who is unresponsive on the airplane.
Had an emergency landing.
Had an emergency landing. They landed the airplane. It was Prince. Prince was taken off the airplane by his, if you want to call him a valet, if you want to call him a manager, he used to be one of Prince's dancers. His name was Kirk Johnson, and Kirk Johnson has been very close to Prince for years. And he carried Prince off the plane, and the paramedics was waiting for, when they got off the plane, Prince was unresponsive. They had to give him 2 shots of Narcan to get him back. Okay.
This is Garland, let me just stop you. This is a video. I just happened to pull this up. This comes from let me do this. This comes from, I don't know if anybody can hear it. I haven't played it yet, but this was from ABC News, and it was a story about the police findings in Prince's last days. Let me know if you guys can hear it.
Prince's final hours. For the first time, we are seeing the surveillance right here of Prince walking into his doctor's office less than 24 hours before his death. His body discovered in his home the next morning, dying from an overdose. Authorities believe he did not know he was taking counterfeit Vicodin laced with fentanyl. They still do not know who provided the pills.
Okay, so that's a very important thing to keep in mind when he says that they don't know who provided the pills, because
with new Lash Blast
I know
Clean
even
Mascara.
in the death of, I think it was Philip Seymour Hoffman, that anybody that provided, medicine to them, I think someone killed him. There was an investigation, and that person went to jail for that. Same thing with John Belushi. Well, John Belushi was killed. They administered a highball, which was a mix of heroin, like a heroin highball that they stuck this woman. She actually died just not too long ago. I can't think of the lady who killed him, but she was actually sentenced for involuntary manslaughter. The attorney representing her in that case was none other than Robert Shapiro of the O.J. Simpson case. And the prosecutor in that case was also Marsha Clark, just for you guys to know. But just an interesting tidbit, not to say that Shapiro or Marsha Clark had anything to do with Prince's death, but I remember when this happened, and that's supposedly it was Prince. Oh, I'm sorry, it ran out of memory, but that was supposedly Prince's suitcase or luggage, I believe, with everything in it. So Kathy, that's her. Yeah, thank you, Derek. Derek's had the woman's name correct, Kathy Smith. So yeah, I don't. It looks like I stopped talking. Well, it looks like my video stopped. But okay, yeah. But Kirk Johnson, we were talking about him. So tell me, so where we were going with that? We talked about the emergency landing. They stop at the airport, and Prince is rushed to the hospital.
Prince is treated, rushed to the hospital. Very, very interesting to note that Judith Hill was on the plane with Prince. Okay. Judith Hill, and she was with Michael Jackson when Michael died. I don't know if you know that or not. But Judith Hill, she Judith Hill. Oh, we lost Gavin. I don't know if you guys can still hear me, but I'll continue until he comes back up if he's gone. Judith Hill was with Prince as well. She was actually on an airplane with Prince, and she told the story later that they were having a conversation, and Prince just all of a sudden, had a very weird look on his face and just fell over. And it's very frightening for her, and she's caught a lot of grief from a lot of third parties in regards to the fact that people are blaming her for what happened. I don't blame Judith Hill for what happened to Prince, and I don't think she had anything to do with it at all. But my point is with that they said that he made comments.
Testing 1, 2.
Yeah, we got you back.
Y'all can hear me? Okay.
Yes. Judith Hill said that Prince lost consciousness, and she said that they were having a conversation. She said she didn't see him, take anything, but he was talking to her. He loses consciousness, and the next thing you know, the plane is landing, and they hit Prince with these 2 shots of Narcan, suggesting that he has OD'd on an opioid. When the doctor asked Prince what did he take, he pointed to a bottle. They brought his bag over, and he had a bottle of Bear aspirin, one of those big Bear aspirin bottles. And he said, that's what I took. And the doctor looked at it, and because it was Narcan that brought him back, and it was some people that had some, they were wondering, say, okay, what did you take? Did you take too many of these? So the issue from that point, we had started having a narrative of this drug addicted rock star narrative took place afterwards. My investigation into this has turned up when you take an investigation and look at what the interviews said. People knew that Prince had a hip problem, and they knew he was taking pain medication for it. But Prince, in the winter of 2015-16, started having flu-like symptoms, and people was worried about him with this flu, and he was like, I don't know what's wrong with me. He was going around telling people, I don't know what's wrong with me. I've got to go to the doctor to find out what's going on because I'm losing weight. He didn't know what was happening to him. So I don't know if he had an inkling to what was going on with him as far as if he was taking these painkillers, what type of toll it was taking on his body, or what was going on with it. I do know that whatever he was thinking, it didn't work. So on the 14th, 15th, or whenever that was, I think it was April 16th, is when he was in Atlanta, which was a Sunday. Okay. He said, I got to go to the doctor and find out what's going on. So when you saw that,
the video we just
showed, you just
saw him going to the doctor.
Exactly. That was the day before he died. Prince died, in my opinion, about anywhere from 10 hours, probably 10 to 12 hours after he left that doctor's office. And the doctor prescribed some medication for him. It was some anti-anxiety medicine that he had. And Prince was it was something going on which concerned him. Okay, that's what's got to be understood here. Is something was going on with him. I don't think the guy was strung out on opioids. I think he may have been taking these opioids. I had a grandmother that had an arthritic knee, and I remember her taking Percocet. I remember her breaking these, she called it pain pill. I remember her breaking these things down into halves and thirds and taking them fourths even now. And it was too much for her. I'm gonna take this much of it. I remember her doing it. And when she passed away, I found these bottles of pain medication in which one bottle was almost full, but had halves in it and so forth and so on. Another bottle may have been half empty. When the police went to Prince's home, they found him dead. They went through and they found several bottles, prescription bottles, belonging to Kirk Johnson at that home, but they were Percocet.
Well, most specifically, let's just go back for a second.
Okay.
Originally, before that, and I remember this when this came out, when he was dying or when he died, there were rumors that Prince, it was starting in the tabloids, that Prince had AIDS. So, right, and Dick Gregory, I remember doing an interview. He said he never met Prince, but he thinks that it was BS because he just finished doing 2 one-man shows in Atlanta. So does that sound like a person who has AIDS? So we saw the slander there where, he's performing one piano, one mic and a piano, and he does sells out those shows, and they say they were outstanding shows that he did. So someone who has AIDS, the HIV virus, especially if it's full-blown AIDS, they don't get to travel around because their immune system is compromised. So they would be bedridden. You're on mute, Garland.
Okay. Let me say something here, and God rest Dick Gregory's soul. I don't even want to get off on Dick Gregory because that was my man, but one of the things that you need to understand, and you understand it, Gavin. Do you remember when all the things came out about when they made the slander? Not necessarily when the court case came up, but right before they charged Bill Cosby, there was all these memes came out.
Yes.
About Bill Cosby and pudding pops and all this other kind of stuff.
Right. Yeah, I remember.
That is what you call a cover story being developed. And they were really prepping people's minds for, trying to make light of what they were doing. And when you see somebody die, number one, and you don't know what happened, the first things they are not trying to come up with the truth and tell the truth about what happened. Or it's either, oh, he's a drug addicted rock star. And that's the first thing that I saw. We were devastated when Prince died. Everybody in my house, it's one of the, in my career as a school teacher, it's one of the things that I'll probably remember to the day I die is when Prince died. I had no idea that he had passed away. But I wound up having about 300 or 400 students come to me because my students know I'm a Prince fan. And they all came to me and was like, do you know what happened? And I said, yeah. And they came to check on me to see if I was okay. Yeah, I'm fine. I said, I'm trying to get to what's going on. I knew something was going on with him, and I knew he wasn't healthy. But you had the Prince, when Prince died, you had, he's addicted, he was AIDS, he had AIDS. When that didn't fly, that's when you start seeing he was a drug addict. Now, they, to this day, they had the pill bottles. I don't know exactly the number of bottles. I want to say it was somewhere in the neighborhood between 4 and 6 bottles. Okay. Yeah, somebody did, and I'm looking at that. Somebody did send a tweet out saying Prince would pass away within the next 2 weeks or something of that nature. I remember that very well.
Well, I remember.
It was curious when that came out.
Yes, I remember a tweet that went out from Prince like I think a day or two before he died from his official account saying something along the lines that uh to something. It was a very mysterious post that was made. I think it was about tomorrow. This is only the beginning or something. Or no matter what you hear,
Right. It said
uh,
he had a tweet that he sent out saying, "Don't waste your." He said, "Wait a couple of days before you waste your prayers," is what it was about. I'm going to tell you a little bit about this tweeting and some of the things that's going on as well that we found out. If you go look at the police investigation of the death, um, you find out some things about that. One of the things that we found out during that investigation, because Hennepin County released everything. It was all out there on the web. Now I think they've taken and pulled a lot of that back from the web, but it was on the web, and they also released the electronic, the interviews that they did with people, and it was very interesting what came out. It was several people that came out and said, "You guys need to watch so and so." If there was one individual who was his bodyguard, and he said, "Look, I'm with him all the time. I've never seen him do anything. I've never seen him take any type of drugs or anything of that nature."
yeah.
There are a group of fans who are in this.
George Clinton said the same thing. He said he was never into drugs. That
Right.
wasn't anything that he did. Never forget too that before he died, he actually threw a party at Paisley Park.
Mm-hmm.
You guys can actually check out. It's on the ABC News, and I'll put a link here, and in fact, let me share it right now so you guys can see because this is some deep stuff. But yeah, but the people that are around Prince, and they hinted that in the docu series that I saw on Headline News, where they were talking about the enablers around him and so forth. Uh, I want to ask you this though: what did you had mentioned something too about Sheila E. when we were talking, and some other people. Like I've heard, was there some type of falling out with?
I don't know if you guys can still hear me. He asked a question. He's back. Was there a falling out with him and Sheila E?
Yeah, that's right.
From my
I know
limited,
Apollonia. She doesn't like her. I think.
the ladies in Prince's life, it's an issue that's going on. There was an issue with Sheila E. I love Sheila E. I really, this is something that I have a problem with, but I'm finna tell you pieces of truth here. When Prince passed away, Sheila did a live stream. She said, "I want everybody to know I'm gonna go to Minneapolis, try to find out what happened." And she came back and said she found out what happened, and he's at rest, and she was saying he was in a lot of pain, blah blah blah. People who were around Prince, people don't understand. About 30 years ago now, back in 1990, I believe it was, Prince had a motorcycle accident that caused this hip problem that he had. And he was jumping off 20-foot high risers and doing all the acrobatic stuff that he was doing in his shows. He most definitely. I'm hurting from football injuries that I had back in the 80s, and I didn't even have a long career in football. So I can imagine somebody who was going through that process every day, doing some very strenuous type of athletic things, what they would be going through. Sheila had there was an issue with him about certain things that she tried to basically quote unquote take over. All of that's petty. Okay. I'm gonna and some of these ladies are friends of mine, so I'm going to let them just have their thing because I like all of them. I'm not gonna get in the
Friends
middle
with
of it.
Apollonia.
Well, I haven't. She's not been one of the people that's reached out to me, so I don't know her. But some of the other ladies have.
Like Mate?
Well, no, I'm not gonna get into all that. I'll just say this right here. There were people who we were discussing this online, and folk contacted me privately. And I'm gonna keep private discussions private to a certain degree. And I know that, you know, it's like, okay, he's making up a whole bunch of stuff. But the thing, this is in the police files. In the early morning hours of April 21st, and I'm saying 2-ish in the morning, Sheila E. and Kirk Johnson was texting each other. What was this about? Okay, now the cover story that the Prince crew was running out with was they were trying to get him in a last minute some type of last ditch effort to get him into a rehab program, blase, blase, blah. But if Prince went to the doctor the day before they found, or 12 hours before he is found dead, if he was at the doctor, why were you trying to call a doctor from California to come in to see about him if he's already been to the doctor? This leads into another question here. And to go back to Sheila E., what was these conversations going on with Sheila E.? I'm not saying anything sinister occurred, but if something was going, my belief is, based upon what I have read and what I've seen, that I believe Prince died somewhere in between the time that they found him at 9 a.m. on April 21st, and
Right.
I believe the man died somewhere around April 20th, and I'm gonna tell you the reason why. Prince was found with his clothes on backwards. If you know Prince and know how meticulous he was in his dress, he would have never put any clothes on backwards. That tells me somebody found him nude, dead. Okay, and they did not want him to be seen like that. Perfectly fine with that.
Not in the police report?
It's not in the police report because they found him in the elevator. And folks will tell you who was close to Prince that he hated that elevator. He never did go in it. And he didn't trust elevators at all. But they found Prince in that elevator. He was in, and he was deceased. But why was Sheila and Kirk texting? Was he telling her, hey, he's dead? You know, what are we gonna do? Right. We don't know. We do know that Prince, according to people who are close to the situation, Prince and Sheila E. had a falling out, and Sheila E. was not allowed at Paisley Park. Now, what all that was about, it's been rumored different things. You know, some people say it had to do with money. They were in the music business. Prince had the rights to her music. Maybe she was trying to get the rights to her music back. I don't know. Maybe he owed her some money, she thought. And I don't know. I don't know what the argument was about. But I do know that they had a falling out. Probably, I believe it's about 2 or 3 years before all of this happened. Maite was not allowed in Paisley Park at all. And especially, and the reason why Maite, bless her heart, was her parents, that's a gold digging situation from jump. And you know, it's various books and stuff talking about Maite, and she didn't say anything until after he was dead because she had a non-disclosure agreement in that situation. Her mother, her sister, I believe it was, or her aunt, or somebody was living at Paisley Park, and she was going to be like a nanny to this baby to be born, and it was a big hullabaloo behind it. Prince tried to keep that as quiet as he could, and he even went on the Oprah show right around the time that child was dead. A lot of people get upset about that, this, that, and the other. But back to his death, okay? Sheila E. and Kirk Johnson were texting in the early morning hours of April 21. They claimed that nobody saw Prince between 8 o'clock that night when they dropped him off alone. Now, he was going through this withdrawal process, so to speak, and they left him alone. Think about that for a minute. In the original, I'm going to tell you to give you the timeline, between April 21st and August 21st of 2016, we really didn't know what happened. So the speculation began. That's where you get the AIDS. That's when you get the issue with the Percocet, and then it became a Percocet issue. A lawyer who was connected to Prince's sister and his half brother. Prince had a half brother and a half sister that sued him. There was a big issue with his family about the house that his father was living in, which was a house that Prince bought. And it was a big issue about who was going to stay there, this, that, and the other. And they sued Prince at various times. He had a sister that sued him and she said he stole a song from her. And it was a lawyer in Minneapolis who basically was the person who was instigating these things. That brother who passed away, his name was Dwayne Nelson. Dwayne Nelson said that...
Yeah, he was mentioned yesterday.
Dwayne Nelson said, well, Prince was using cocaine, blah, blah, blah. But see, what a lot of people don't know about that is Prince fired Dwayne because Dwayne was selling bootlegs. He was the source of a lot of bootleg material that got out with Prince. A lot of the main thing, and Mayte was selling clothes, yeah, and Prince put a stop to it. She was
and I remember that. I actually remember that because Mayte had a TV show with Eddie Murphy's ex-wife and Shaquille O'Neal's ex-wife. It was called Hollywood Exes or something like that, and she was in that. And I remember her mother was talking greasy about Prince.
The mother is it's the mother and some people surrounding him had a lot to do with him with their situation not working out. And I wouldn't have had no parts in it. But anyway, Mayte didn't know what happened to Prince. Prince's second wife, she was worse than Mayte. She's not doing a lot of talking, but Prince and her fell out so bad that Prince tore the house down and mailed it to her piece by piece because she wanted the house in the divorce. He had the house torn. It wasn't torn down. It was literally taken apart. This was a multi-million-dollar house that he had
second wife
deconstructed, and it was taken to her piece by piece. She didn't have anything. She didn't know what was going on with that. But let me jump ahead here, and without going into try to speed up the process here and let people know why I think this right here was a assassination and a murder. Going back to these pills, when the investigation was concluded, this is August 21st. Of 2016, we found out that what killed Prince was not Percocet, but it was counterfeit Vicodin tablets. These Vicodin tablets that was in there, how we know they were counterfeit was because those Vicodin tablets had been discontinued 5-6 years earlier than 2016. No one had manufactured this type of Vicodin in the world. And it was most of the Vicodin tablets had fentanyl, and they had something called U-7000, which is another synthetic opioid that is out, they say it's worse than fentanyl. So you had these pills put in bare aspirin bottles, and it was an Aleve bottle that was found in his possession that had these counterfeit tablets. Another part of the investigation I had, and this has never been verified, and I've looked all over for verification of this. I have been told that those bottles had Vicodin tablets that did not have full. It wasn't, 64 tablets of just pure fentanyl, Vicodin, fake Vicodin. There was actual real Vicodin in those bottles. There were, and they were mixed in the mix of these pills. So when you start getting into the forensics of it, the DEA has not been able to find the press that these pills were created on. They have not seen the signature of the press that these pills were created on anywhere in the world in 5 years. And Prince had enough fentanyl in his system where it said that it would kill an army battalion. They said he had astronomical levels of fentanyl in his system. I want to say that in some cases, like 10 times the amount. I'm not. This is not an exact number, but it gives you the extreme number. It was almost 10 times higher than the average fentanyl overdose that you would see. So it wasn't, this wasn't something where he took some fentanyl and it's just like Joe Blow on the street. This dude took enough fentanyl that could have killed a half a city. And nobody knows where it came from. Another thing that we find to be very interesting is that if you had something that had that much fentanyl in it, who put it in those bottles? Because if they put it in those bottles and touched it, fentanyl is known to kill people just by getting through their skin. So it's a lot of questions here that don't have good, solid answers to them. They tried to call Kirk Johnson in, and a lot of Prince fans blame Kirk Johnson. They say Kirk Johnson got him the fake Vicodin. But here's the question here. You have a multi-millionaire rock star who has the access to get legal, real drugs if he wanted them. Okay? He has a legion of fans who would have been willing to go out and get these drugs for him. And he would have never been in danger of taking anything that was counterfeit at all. Some of the things that I think happened to him, and this is just speculation on my behalf, I think some of the things that started happening to him where he started noticing these things, I'm losing weight, what's going on, he thought he was taking his regular medication and somebody had switched his medication out. And that's what caused him to go into this downward spiral. Now, the autopsy report said Prince was a one-time user of fentanyl. That was the dose that killed him. What happened on the airplane? What happened on this airplane?
The emergency on the airplane.
Right. What happened? Did he take on this airplane that it took 2 shots of Narcan, not one shot, 2 shots to bring him back? It's my contention that he was supposed to have died on that airplane.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, this is more speculation on my behalf. The fellow that is causing the trouble in Russia right now, I can't think. He's the opposition to Putin that they poisoned, and he almost died on an airplane. I don't know if you noticed or not. It's almost the exact parallel to what happened to Prince. He discovered that they poisoned him by putting whatever it was that they gave him in the underwear of his underwear.
Navalny.
Yes, that's him. They put the poison in the underwear where it would have got to his skin very quickly and undetectable. I do not think that those pills that they found was even that powerful enough to have killed Prince. People have said, they said that much fentanyl, he couldn't have gotten that fentanyl in there. Yeah, somebody real close, someone who was real close to him did this right here to him. But somebody had to have had access to his clothes. I'll go to my grave saying that this man, somebody poisoned him. Now, what the why, I have no idea. Me personally, I think especially in that time period, they was trying to silence certain people who could possibly give other people opposition.
Mm-hmm. Let me ask
you.
You.
Saw what they did to Bill.
Well, with Bill, that was about. Well, here's the thing. Let's even because in touch with music industry, we've seen it go on before with Sam Cooke, like, and Al is going to be coming on because Sam's death was mysterious in the fact that he had just gotten. Well, he had found out that his company, Tracy Limited, was not owned by him but by his manager, and supposedly was threatening to fire Alan Klein. And before he could do that, he dies mysteriously on a accusation of rape, supposedly raping this woman and kidnapping her, bringing her to a seedy motel. In and of itself didn't sound right. So, and a lot of black artists like Chuck Berry, Jackie Wilson, Little Richard included, they got screwed royally by their record labels and over their royalty rights, especially Jackie. Jackie was so broke that at the time of his death, they couldn't even afford a headstone for his grave back in 1984, which was sad. But Sammy Davis Jr. included. Sammy Davis Jr., they were actually taking items out of his home while he was in his deathbed. The IRS was cold in doing that. But with Prince, he supposedly he had struck a deal, I remember, with Warner Brothers, supposedly to get back the rights to his Purple Rain, all the songs that he made previously in 2014. And he put a stop to streaming, his music online. I think he was under Tidal with Jay-Z.
He was under Tidal. He went to Jay-Z.
Right. The plane, somebody said that plane was owned by Warren Buffett.
Yes, it was. Yes, it was.
That's interesting to know. So, and I remember last year they did a tribute to Prince on CBS, and I brought you on about that because there was controversy, I think, with Apollonia, and I mentioned the Sheila E. because there was controversy because Sheila E. was supposed, I think, put that on, and Apollonia didn't like it. Several people didn't like it. The show was a mix. Right. I didn't care for the show at all, per se. I didn't think it was authentic, just like they had Madonna do a Prince tribute when Madonna and Prince didn't get along, I don't think. And looks like they had Justin Timberlake do the Prince tribute at the Super Bowl, which we know Prince would never have allowed his image or likeness to be used, especially with Justin Timberlake, because they had a beef.
Yeah.
When he did.
Nobody would ever be able to duplicate, in my opinion, Prince. Nobody ever be able to duplicate Michael Jackson. Nobody ever be able to duplicate James Brown. Nobody would ever be able to duplicate these cats. And when you see what we have today, because we have a talentless generation of people who have certain designated people to do things and to placate the new masses of people who are not used to real entertainment. They will get these certain hand-picked people and put them out there to be stars. The music industry is just like everything else now. In sports included, it's designed to make money for a certain group of people. and the other group of people are going to be left out on that situation. So who was behind it? Like I said, I think it was more of a political assassination than anything else. But also, there's money, and whenever you have money involved, people get real greedy.
Why political?
Because Prince, one of the last singles he released was a song called Baltimore, which was a tribute or a song dedicated to Freddie Gray. And when he wrote that song, the first word that I said, the first thing that came out of my mouth was that, man, I said, Prince, man, I said, you messed up, man. Why did you do this? And I mean, the song, at the end of the song, he was chanting, if there's no justice, then it ain't no peace. I mean, he was chanting it in the song. The song was bad. And I mean, it's like, okay, I'm feeling it right here, because he was one of the last people. Now you think about this now. And I tell people, my whole perspective on Mike changed after I started realizing Mike got the whole world together to sing a song to raise money for people in Africa. That's dangerous. If you saw Judas and the Black Messiah, you realize that they don't want a Black Messiah. They don't want any Black person that's capable of leading mass numbers of people. And Prince was one of the last ones. Okay? That's the reason why your rap music is Hook a Bitch and Hope instead of Public Enemy and KRS-One and some of them cats that was coming out of the East Coast back when I was a kid.
We don't even own the rap music. Well, here's the thing. We don't own when we say all of that, though, too, Black people do not control the music in their communities or the labels. It's just like when Bobby Shmurda was dancing on the table in front of the white executives to his songs and stuff. Black people have never controlled the music industry. And when we do, it comes with strings attached to it. The reason why somebody may say, well, how was it Berry Gordy was able to survive longer than Sam Cooke? Well, Berry Gordy wasn't hanging out with Malcolm X like Sam Cooke was.
Right. And he had the mob. The mob owned 70% of Motown.
I've heard that. I've heard that. I mean, the mafia has always been involved in the music industry. That's a license to print money.
But you also another thing, Gavin, what you got to understand is happening now. And listen to what I'm getting ready to say here. When the mob ran it, it was more honest than what it is now.
That's saying something.
Just like Las Vegas. I had a person tell me, he said, when the mob ran Las Vegas, you could walk down the strip with $5,000 in your hand and not never have to worry about somebody taking it from you. He said, when corporate America took it over, Las Vegas has become a very dangerous city.
It has. I've been to Las Vegas twice. They took it over, and the corporations basically, they changed how everything was done. It's interesting you said that, but I remember reading how Las Vegas was integrated. Essentially, was because Frank Sinatra's friendship with the mafia, and he threatened to fire the entire staff over at the Sands Hotel when he found out Nat King Cole was eating out of his car and wasn't allowed to sleep or eat. And he said, well, we're going to have to fight. He told the owner of the Sands Hotel, he said, we're going to have to fire the whole damn wait staff if he's not allowed to stay here. He didn't tolerate stuff like that. And
he hated that mess, man. He also did a lot of stuff.
Right.
He did notorious. What's the lady who was on Harlem Nights?
Not Della Reese.
Yeah. He helped her out big time.
Well, he helped out Lena Horne. He helped out Joe Louis and Sugar Ray Robinson. He paid for their medical bills. So he did a lot of stuff. But even for Nat King Cole, because he was close friends with him, I remember reading this, but he actually I think he got a plane out for Nat King Cole to leave Alabama when he was performing, and they threatened to kill him. He flew him out. They tried to kill Sammy actually back in the 50s because Sammy was dating Kim Novak.
Yep.
And Harry Cohen, who was the
The
He was
Fixer.
the president. No, he wasn't the fixer. He was the president of Columbia Pictures.
Okay, that
He was
one.
in charge
Okay.
of Columbia Pictures.
Yeah.
He, they actually threatened to kill Sammy over that, and they actually took him out to the desert. But I think Frank intervened on his behalf and asked him not to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's a lot. And she, very interesting. Kim Novak, still to this day, she calls Sammy Davis Jr. the love of her life. Uh, when, like they say, once you go black, you can't go back because your
Yeah,
parents kick you
you
out.
got, going back to some of this thing, some of this information, with Prince. Prince had a group of people who were his benefactors when he was with Warner Brothers. And when that group left Warner Brothers, they was basically forced out by corporate America. These were record industry people. They were forced out by the beginning of the mergers that were taking place. And that started back in the 90s. And when he got forced out, I mean, not Prince, but this certain individual at Warner Brothers, they were out to get him then with Prince, and they tried to destroy him. See, they blackballed Prince. Prince got blackballed after he left Warner Brothers in '96, and when he tried to make a comeback, I never will forget it. The scuttlebutt that was going on at the time was the reason why Clive Davis was forced out at Arista, was because I don't know if you know anything about this, but Clive Davis got forced out at Arista around the same time that Prince signed with Arista. Prince signed with Arista for one album. It was called Raven to the Joy of Fantastic. And when they forced Clive out, Clive and Prince had a major argument, and he told him, he said, "Prince, this ain't nothing I can do. This is even gone beyond me." And the next president of Arista Records,
That's correct. I'm sorry, Rosalind, my girl Rosalind's in the building. Shout out to you. Yeah, Kim Novak was in Vertigo. She was, I'm not gonna lie, she was a fine ass woman, a fine white woman.
She was good looking lady.
She was thick.
Good looking lady. She might have been number 2 at the time as far as the white ladies was concerned to Elizabeth
Ava
Taylor.
Gardner.
Yeah.
Elizabeth Taylor,
these are prime, grade A women. And but they went through their own struggles and stuff in Hollywood as well, because the industry, man, is a sausage grind. The entertainment industry will eat you up and spit you out, and I don't care who you are. It's like that. But with Prince, like I said before, I don't
like with. I'm cutting you off a little bit. I'm sorry, but
no problem.
A conversation. But the thing with Prince, and I think Tariq Nasheed brought this up. When he was being blackballed by the music industry, he was a type of artist that could go perform live shows and still make a living off of it. He had a following, so he really didn't need the industry per se to make music. It's just like with a lot of old school artists, like Stevie Wonder. If he doesn't have to make new music if he doesn't want to. His catalog is there. In fact, he left Motown, just announcing it just this past month, and forming his own record company, and he's moving to Ghana. So I thought that was interesting. A man who he essentially had a damn near 60+ year career with Motown Records since he was a little boy. And, at one point, he was actually about to be fired from Motown because his voice, they didn't know how it would change until he did Uptight. And that's what happened. But yeah, man, the entertainment industry is fickle. And what they do with black men, when we talked about Cosby, with Bill, they didn't like the fact, and I'll correlate that with Prince, they didn't like the fact that he essentially was promoting these positive images and, ridiculing the industry for racism, and then trying to buy one of the major networks at that time in the 90s, NBC. You couple that with Prince, where Dick Gregory said, his reason and guess if they had to kill Prince, or why a motive was when he put that slave tattoo on his cheek, where he essentially talked about how the industry makes a slave out of its artist, and that he wasn't allowed to own his own music, and they had his name and rights to everything he owned. So they decided to boycott. He decided to boycott them. So he was in a position to go further than most other people in terms of music, because there's nothing like Prince fans. I mean, people will listen to his music now. People could have gone to his concerts and sell out. And I mean, he was a type of artist, from what I heard, that he would put on free concerts even for people. He would actually pay for instruments for schools. I know he paid money. He funded the Martin Luther King video that Sheila E. Curtis Blow and I said Sheila E. Tina Marie and Whitney Houston, the Fat Boys, those guys did as a tribute to Dr. King. So he when they were pushing for a holiday. So
Prince, Prince also, and while you bringing it up, this is something that's very important too, that I think a lot of people need to realize, especially folk who are concerned with Mr. Cosby. Prince and Bill Cosby put the money and helped with Michael, with several Black celebrities, to fund the money to finish Spike Lee's Malcolm X. And also, this is around the same time that a lot of these problems started for both Mr. Cosby and Prince. This was around the same time period, in that 93,
92.
92, 93 time period.
Yeah, well, not only that, that was around the time when not just them, but Michael Jordan, Magic Johnson.
Exactly.
That started. Michael Jordan's father dies in the 90s, and I heard that was about drugs, and not they're not going to tell you the whole story with all of that going on, because what happened in that area, that even with Dick Gregory, stuff he said that Michael Jordan's dad, Michael Jordan, had a gambling addiction and stuff like that. All of that stuff was tied in. But that he said Magic Johnson, that he really doesn't have AIDS and stuff like that. But that's a different story. But yeah, I think that was interesting. At that point, in 1992, 1993, that stuff was going on. That's very interesting. But I know that Michael Jordan, with Spike Lee, which was interesting since you brought that up. Spike Lee has been on a campaign where he has actually taken his time to crap and shit on. Excuse my French, I'm trying to watch my language, but he's been crapping on Bill Cosby as of late.
Yeah.
Especially about the HBC, about the Different World and School Days. And I did a video with Sean James. Sean, shout out to Sean, where that has to be utter BS, because A Different World came out number 1 a year before School Days even came out.
Yeah, right.
And in order to get a show or greenlit, a movie and even get along a movie, you go through, number 1, ironing out all of the details, all of the scripts, who the characters are. You have to trademark everything. You have to go through set designs, where it's going to be set. There's a process to it, exactly. So Spike Lee also was not a well-known director at that point. He hadn't blown up yet. Only movie he had was She's Gotta Have It, and for directing the Michael Jordan commercials with Mars Blackman. That's all he was known for at that point. So he didn't really blow up until after, like, Do the Right Thing, which was 89, 1990. So School Days came out in 88, Do the Right Thing in 1989. So,
well, let me tell you, because I'm from that time period. Spike was known. He wasn't nationally known or internationally known, but on the HBCU scene, he was known. And with She's Gotta Have It in the Mars, he was big in promoting Air Jordans. So he was known, and he was known on Tennessee State's campus at the time. When I got there on campus in '88, everybody knew who he was. So it wasn't like he was just totally unknown, but he wasn't as big as he was after Do the
He
Right
wasn't
Thing.
bigger than Bill Cosby.
No, oh God, no, 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 no.
Like, was he big enough? Was he big enough to start a TV? Was he big enough to, at that point, where Bill Cosby would have stolen his TV show, his idea
No,
for a
it
show?
might have been. We thought. I'm gonna tell you what we thought. We thought it was the other way around because, like you said, Different World was out in the fall of '87.
Yeah.
I'm a child I'm a child of that time period because my freshman class in college was the largest freshman class in Tennessee State's history. There were more African Americans who went to school at HBCUs. We broke records in 1988 because of A Different World. So I don't know why he tried to, now when School Days came out. School Days was huge, okay, but he wasn't Bill Cosby huge. He was huge, like underground huge, as far as we were concerned. For African Americans at the time period, we knew who he was. But as far as Bill Cosby, no, Bill Cosby probably set him up and made School Days to be more popular than what it was. But I will say this right here about School Days. That's one of the most accurate depictions of college life on the HBCU that ever was created in history. Is way more accurate than A Different World, even though I love A Different World. Don't say anything bad about A Different World. But, especially the second season until A Different World ended, it became more realistic. But the first year A Different World was kind of like, okay. But the second year, once the young lady who wound up being in My Cousin Vinny and those other movies,
Marissa Tomei.
When she left the show got to be very, and I love the actress. I thought she was a great actress. It wasn't realistic. At that time period, you just didn't have a lot of white kids on HBCU. Now you got more now. I think if the movie came, if A Different World was on TV, that first season of Different World, it's more accurate now than it would have been then. But
right. Well, most specifically, I think what's going on is that what you see happening is that the HBCUs across the country now, it's actually more whites are going to those schools because it's obviously it's more cost affordable for them to be in those schools now. Than at a LSU. Like here at Baton Rouge at Southern, it's only 51% black, but it's like 45% white because why? It's easy for them to join those to get into. They can't go if they can't get into LSU, they come to Southern. It's more cost affordable. So it's actually as an accurate portrayal. I think what they did, but it wasn't really authentic. It wasn't as funny when the first season came out. So that's why Debbie Allen came in. But I'm just saying again, for Spike Lee to come out and say Bill Cosby stole his idea, that was yes. But I think Spike is riding high off that Oscar win. Like Spike Lee's been snubbed by the academies on so many things. Although his films, as of late, have been garbage. But his movies, like Malcolm X, like Do the Right Thing, they have been snubbed, and I know he was bitter about that. But like you said again, for Bill Cosby, Prince, Michael Jackson, those guys to give you money, especially Mr. Cosby, you defended Mr. Cosby when he made those comments about pulling your pants up. You understood what he was saying. You should have an idea and knowledge to know that this man is being set up or railroaded, and you won't speak up about it. See, that's my problem. These guys all made their money. Listen, maybe Bill was wrong in how he said that because not all black people who are poor are, of course, are not going to commit crime or anything like that. Generalize the community in a way. And I think he was wrong in how he approached, certain comedians. Like I wouldn't have, you're condemning someone for their language and so forth. I don't know if I would go public with some of those things, but then again, I also see where his point was, which was that, uh, he dealt with racism in Hollywood and saw that what the white producers on shows like I Spy and the Bill Cosby Show thought of
Right.
black people. I mean, they had white actors in blackface doing stunts, white stuntmen, and he protested. And he helped co-found the Black Stuntmen's Association out in Los Angeles. So those are some things that he did that doesn't get talked about.
Man,
Being
Bill Cosby, a lot of the things, going back to what I said earlier, a man told me one time, and this gentleman was in politics, and this was a white gentleman that told me this. He said, sexual smears are political. I never will forget him ever saying it, because ever since he told me that, which was about 28, 29 years ago, I have seen whenever you want to destroy somebody politically, you come out. It comes from a political source with some type of scandalous rumor about some sex, and regardless of whatever type of sex it is, whether it be homosexual or be heterosexual, and you have that attitude going on. The Me Too thing, a lot of the Me Too thing was political in nature. And we, as a group of people, I'm gonna also go back and throw the same spotlight on the pound cake speech that you were talking about with Mr. Cosby. Nothing that Bill Cosby said in that pound cake speech is nothing that I haven't heard from one of my uncles, especially two in particular. So, you go back to when Eddie Murphy did Raw, and he made the comment about Bill Cosby, chastising him about, cussing or whatever he was doing in a show or something, and then the comment that Richard Pryor made to him. And it was a joke. Our generation didn't go and get butthurt and offended by what Mr. Cosby said, because we looked at Mr. Cosby like he was our uncle. That's our uncle talking, and it's the uncle. He wasn't a cool uncle, but it's the uncle that, when he say something, he's usually saying it's right, and you're not gonna fuss back with him at that. You're gonna take your chastisement and go on about what he's saying. This generation of people here, we have to be very. We as a group of people, especially African Americans, in the climate that we're in now in this country, we have to be very careful to recognize things which are designed to create stratification and drama amongst our people. It's a wedge issue being driven within the community, instead of, and I'm gonna be totally honest on this. You have to watch some of the stuff that's coming out with a lot of stuff that's targeted to us. Who's actually doing the targeting? This is a question that you need to ask yourself. And I posted this. I don't know if you saw my post from this morning. We've got a situation going on here in Nashville in which a police officer killed a lady. But when you watch the video,
right, I saw that.
Whoa. Okay, she pulled a gun out on him and she shot him, and it's a lot of disinformation. Right. But
right. Well, every police shooting is not a Black Lives Matter issue.
Right.
I get that.
Right. Breonna Taylor,
and that one he was.
That's one. My man up in Minneapolis. That's one. Where actually Philando Castile's one. Those are issues, but you got folks who are not us trying to dictate to us what we need to be upset about. Yeah. That's something that we need to be careful about here going forward in this 21st century, because it's very easy to create disinformation and misinformation. Very easy.
And but the thing is, there's transparency that has to happen where you have body camera footage. It's important to have those, although that doesn't stop white supremacy or racism in and of itself. What would stop it is when you defund the police or take away their insurance, make them forcibly pay for their own insurance, so that way they will have second thoughts about doing anything like this, doing stupid stuff. But no,
Well,
in that
what you
video,
do, what happens is what you're gonna stop it with, and you know this as well, is when you end implied immunity and start hitting that
that's what
pocketbook
I
of
was
these
saying.
cities. You know, when you start hitting that pocketbook, and every time you kill somebody in this accident, $7.5 million, that's when it's gonna stop. You know, that's the thing that's really sad about a lot of the stuff that's going on. And you know, they was talking about George Floyd. I'm glad the family got the money. They should have got the money, because you know, I've talked to law enforcement officers. I've talked to law enforcement officers that have told me in private, white and black, that what happened up in Minneapolis was wrong. They won't say it in public, because they're not gonna go against that thin blue line. But I've heard them say that, and I was like, wow. That I said that's really deep. Like, you know, we kind of question what happened here. There's something wrong with that. He shouldn't have done what he did. So when police officers start saying that and they start condemning their own, because it's just like with teachers. And I'm gonna tell you the big difference between policemen and teachers, the police union and teachers union. I've never seen the teachers union stick up for a teacher that wound up having a sexual relationship with a student, or hurting a kid. I've never seen the teachers union do that. Police union, these police officers kill people. The next thing you know, they'll defend them to the last breath. Oh yeah, it was justified, this, that, and the other. That's the big difference between the FOP and the teachers union. We don't defend. If we saw the teachers mess with a kid, hey, you need to go. You don't need to be around kids if you're gonna be doing that. There's a lot of grown women out here you can be messed with, or men that you can be running around with, instead of mess with kids. So something wrong with you. We need to get rid of you, and we will stay there and do that to ourselves. You don't see that happening with police officers at all. But I have my wife is beeping me because she says it's time for me to come on. And I believe looking out the window, the wreck is over. So I'm going to have to step aside. I will say this in closing to clarify anything for anyone about Prince. And this is what you need to remember about his death. No one to this day has discovered where those pills came from. Okay. We don't know. Also, Prince had some associates in which they were getting his royalties sent directly to them. And 2 + 2 here starts equaling 5. And you know, I will communicate with you more and give you access to, links to the information that I'm talking about. All of this stuff, people, is online. They have the interviews, the Hennepin County, I believe it was some YouTube videos to the police interviews with people who were involved in that the police went and talked to. The chef that Prince had at Paisley Park was somebody that the police was very interested in at one time as well. But that being said, I don't believe that the man, it's somebody close to him. It was somebody in that house and had access to his food. I don't
before
think
you go.
Yes.
Before you go, I do have one question about the elevator, because I've seen the pictures of Prince's body, dead body on the floor outside the elevator.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm not mistaken, because they always say they found him inside, then they found him outside. What exactly, to this day, I'm just curious, would there not have been, I'm just guessing, cameras within the house? I'm assuming, especially a celebrity like that, that was recording his actions.
Prince was one of the first people to invest in video equipment at home. But mysteriously, the video equipment didn't work. The video equipment had been offline, or they were installing some new video equipment in that building at that time. Very curious right there. Another thing, talking about this elevator, Prince was in the elevator and he was moved out of the elevator by paramedics who tried to perform CPR on him. If you know anything about forensics and about algal mortis, rigor mortis, and liver mortis, algal mortis is, I believe, temperature of death. Rigor is stiffness, and algar is coloring. According to the paramedic, and this information has never been revealed because it has to come from the autopsy, Prince had began to go into rigor. Full rigor is 12 hours, I believe, after the death occurs. So if he had started going into rigor, which is stiffness of death, and he had started going into it,
it's the third stage of death. Yeah,
exactly. He should have been dead if they found him at 9 something. He probably died, like I said, over in the night, at the earliest, over in the night. So if you go back 6 hours from when they found him, or 7 hours from when they found him, that was around the time that Sheila E. got that text from Kurt Johnson. Instead, we get the narrative that didn't nobody know where he was. I will also tell you this right here real quick before I go. My wife's gonna kill. They called this rehab specialist who was supposed to have been doing some type of holistic rehab with people. They called him somewhere in April 20th. He sent his son to Minneapolis and on a red-eye flight. And this son left the San Francisco area going to Minneapolis, and he got into Minneapolis somewhere around 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning. They didn't go directly to Prince's house. They went and got him. He went to go get breakfast. They was la-la-la, and then they go to Prince's home, where they find Prince dead. Okay, so that right there has always been this big question, because from my understanding, there is a very well-known, very highly regarded rehab facility somewhere in that area. It's and people go there all the time. So instead of somebody going to get somebody locally or someone close to Prince, if he was in such dire straits as what we were being told, they got somebody from San Francisco, and the doctor didn't come himself. He sent his son, who is not even licensed practitioner. So there are some questions there. Now, all of this stuff was investigated, and no charges went to anybody. Matter of fact, the person who called the police, called 911 to come to Paisley Park, was this doctor's son. I can't think of his name now. I believe it was Schofield or something of that nature. But those are some things that's just strange. It's weird. It's like cover-up type of stuff that we're going to cover our tracks because Prince died, send somebody up here so we could throw all the stuff off, because they knew Prince was dead somewhere in that time period. The issue is, the question here is, all right, it was accidental, because when they did the autopsy, they did not see in the stomach contents and the test that came from the stomach contents and from the toxicology, it was not, they do know it was a lot of fentanyl in that bloodstream and in that stomach, but it was not a big trace of pills. So if he tried to commit suicide, it would have been evidence in his stomach that happened. He took multiple pills. He would have, the amount of fentanyl that he took probably would have killed him within 30 seconds to a minute of him even digesting the pill. So this is where you start getting into the forensics of this thing, that if they release that information, it would detail as something other than him. It's going to be more than a drug addicted rock star narrative that they've been portraying for so long.
Yeah. Well, Garland, I don't want you to get in trouble with your wife, man. I appreciate you coming on. I was waiting for our second guest, Albert Lanier. I guess he's not going to be able to make it. I haven't heard anything, so I apologize for that, family. But we're going to try to get Brother Lanier to come back on some other time. In the meantime, Garland, I think I will have you come back and we can do a follow-up in April, since
Okay.
that will mark the anniversary of Prince's death, because a lot of people still have questions about it. I just thought about it just watching that docu-series, because I was really sad. Prince was somebody that a lot of people looked up to, still do. I remember the Musicology album that came out in '04, which was one of my favorite tracks, and just to hear the songs that he did. But when you're a black man, you're a black icon who can not only music is like I said again, that should be a business that everybody should be looking into. And when you're a person who can reach the masses and you're able to establish wealth, you're able to especially just perform on your own without the need of the record label, which is what he and Michael Jackson was able to do. It makes you a threat. So so you guys,
let me say something real quick before I go, and I'm probably gonna get beat up when I get home. But anyway, that HLN special that came on. Let me just say this right here. During the time that they made, right after they made that special, I had the opportunity to run into the producer and some folks who helped make that show. And I confronted them about, I said, you guys, I said, why would you make a documentary about the death of Prince or the last days of Prince or whatever, and you not go into the known things that we knew, the inconsistencies of what was presented? And when I said this to this person, she looked stunned. It's like, how are you supposed to know about that right there? Where did you get that information from? And I was like, you guys may not realize this, but Prince was more he was more than the person that we that you saw, which was this rock star to us. He was a hero to our generation, and he was the hero to the kid, the black sheep of the family. It was a person that did an article about Prince was the hero to all the black sheep of the family. I was a black sheep of my family. So he was a hero to us. And he is deserving of something that is going to put a little bit more humanity onto his name versus what you are doing. It's a lot of people who hate Prince. You got to understand that. And Mars Day, if you watch the Tales from the Tour Bus series that they did, which I find it hilarious when these guys go on and they start doing all this talking. The time Jimmy Jam and them, they were fantastic musicians. Jimmy Jam, Terry Lewis, fantastic musical directors and producers. They didn't write that stuff. That was Prince. Prince wrote the music. And Prince, on the first tour the time was playing a lot of the music behind the stage, while Mars Day and they was on front singing. A lot of folk don't know that. They don't talk about that right there. But Morris comes on with the story he's telling. I want Morris to make his money. I want him to hit the rounds and stuff to do what he's doing. And Morris has a story to tell. However, you're not hearing that story being told about Morris being strung out on cocaine, and that's the reason why him and Prince fell out, because Prince was telling him, say, hey, Morris, I don't need you high during this time period. We need to finish this movie. And he was out snoring everything up. It is a story on that Tales from the Tour Bus, which tells the story about them having to go find Morris and bring him, put makeup on him,
I saw that.
Up on stage. Yeah, that's hilarious. But tell the truth will out. Shakespeare said that the truth will out. all you gotta do is tell the truth about it. It's gonna still sell. People would love to hear some of the stuff that you're saying. Tell the truth about it. That's all you gotta do. But that being said, I've got to go. I just had the door open. They calling me out right now, so I'm getting ready to take off. But I'll most definitely come back and get with you again, man.
All right, no problem. Yeah, we got to do that. And especially, I was hoping we could get to because you told me some stuff, especially about Van Jones, because I thought that was interesting. I don't know if
Hold on. Okay, hold on. I'll stick around just for a couple seconds here. Van Jones. Okay. Van and we found out that Van and this other lady, who was the Prince's manager, lawyer, or something, she supposedly got him his masters back and negotiated the deal with Warner Brothers. Okay, to get Prince re-signed with Warner Brothers in 2014. And a lot of people didn't know, and I didn't know, that she wasn't working with him at the time Prince died. But she all of a sudden got access to a lot of things. And we found out that she ended Prince's relationship with his publishing company and somehow or another started having his royalties go to her. Now, that information leaked. I have not heard any more about it, but it's in the but there were some people who were close to Prince that was telling the police to say, you need to, ask these people some questions because they know more about what was going on. But Van Jones, he is a person that, as a Prince fan, and not to say anything about Van, I like Van. I don't have a problem with it. I knew who Van Jones was, and I'm a Prince fan. I'm a pretty big Prince fan. The whole time, I didn't know that Van Jones had any association with Prince until he died and he was on CNN. And there were some folks that was concerned about that because they were like, we've never seen Van Jones up here. So, Van is somebody that most definitely needs to be questioned a little bit about this time period as well. If he was telling, if you believe Van was saying Prince came to him and he had him doing some work for him, getting money to our people. And he didn't want the fanfare. He didn't want the glory for it. He just wanted to make sure he was helping people. And if Van was doing it, hey, I apologize for putting Van's name out there. But a lot of folks that was close was like, hey, this is something up with this cat right here. I don't know. But other than that, I'm out. I will see you guys in April. If we come back, just let me know when you want me back on, and we'll try to work up something.
All right, no doubt, man. I appreciate you coming on, and we will definitely do a follow up to this. But yeah, that was real interesting. But yeah, all right. Well, Garland, you be safe, be blessed, and I wish you best luck with the wife.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, guys, please hit the like and share and subscribe buttons. I need you guys to also. Some people speculate that Prince was murdered for his catalog. Yes, that is part of the rumor. I need you guys to please click on the like, share, and subscribes. Also, guys, if you would, please donate to the channel. You can always donate to the channel with the Cash App, Gavin Richard Esquire, Google Pay, gavin.grich1@gmail.com, or PayPal at gavin.grich1@gmail.com. That's right. So you guys be safe, be blessed. You enjoy the rest of your Sunday on this daylight savings time. We spring forward. I will see you all in the next one. I'll holla. Peace.